Hi, I'm Susan Ozawa. I'm the Economic Studies Fellow at Campaign for America's Future.
I'm Jennifer Ettinger. I'm from ourfuture.org. Okay. What did Geithner define as criteria for measuring the effectiveness of the Troubled Asset Relief Program?
In response to that question, Geithner was very clear that the metrics that he was interested in utilizing were market-wide. So he talked about credit spreads and he talked about volumes in lending at the market level, but he didn't talk about metrics at the firm level or at the bank level. So he essentially dodged that question. Although it's a valid metric, it's quite difficult to determine the efficacy of a program since there's so many different programs right now that are being used right now for this financial crisis. It's hard to tell what's happening in terms of the policy's effect on the market explicitly.
Okay. How did Geithner address the concern of the panel over the conversion of common stock to preferred stock?
Geithner was asked a question regarding the stress tests, and in particular he was asked what will be the criteria for converting if there's a shortfall in capital after these stress tests are performed. What will be the criteria for determining how these shortfalls will be filled? And his answer was, in collaboration with the federal authorities, the bank managers will determine from three different options, one being raising capital on markets, the other being capital injections from the government, and the other would be converting preferred shares to common stock. They'd be able to choose from those three based on what they were interested in doing and what made sense for them. So his answer was essentially that they have their own criteria. We don't have it. It's the Fed's program. This is not our program, essentially, and that's how he addressed that question.
How did Geithner respond when it was pointed out that there was a marked difference in the auto bailout versus the financial industry bailout?
His response to that was that the conditionality put on the auto bailouts was appropriate given their unique place, presumably, in the economy. However, he felt that banks and financial institutions held a different position, particularly the 19 largest ones, that were systemically significant. So if presumably his thinking would mean that if there's any kind of conditionality that would lead to a lack of confidence, it would be systemically destabilizing, and that it could have catastrophic implications that we cannot fathom.
Conditionality such as?
Executive compensation or replacing management and the kind of basic things that were discussed with the auto bailout. However, this question was asked because these are they were bailed out because they are systemically significant institutions and they do have huge implications. But it was a poignant question about why the banking sector is treated differently from manufacturing sectors, which is a valid question, and I'm not sure that he handled it adequately to the panel's liking, but they didn't have quite a lot of time to have back and forth.
A draft executive compensation rule is due to be released for public comment. Where does Geithner stand in terms of executive compensation?
The question on executive compensation was asked specifically with respect to what's called the PPIP, or the Public-Private Investment Program, and the technical status of that is that right now the there's a debt side and an equity side, but regarding the security side, rather, the conditionality from the term asset-backed securities loan facility, which is called TALF, would be imposed on that portion of PPIP. It's lots of acronyms. But essentially, if the TALF conditionality was imposed on PPIP, there would be no executive compensation conditionality for non-financial entities, so for hedge funds and for private equity firms who are buying into this program to take off the legacy assets off of these banks' books. They wouldn't be subject to the conditionality of all the other banks who are taking TARP funds. So if they clarify that, it could be, politically very difficult for the Treasury, but that would be consistent with what exists on the books today.
What are the Treasury and its programs doing to address the foreclosure crisis and ensure that consumers are protected?
The Treasury's position on, I should say, Chairman Warren asked very pointed questions about modifying mortgages through the bankruptcy process, and she was actually pushing for a stronger amendment to bankruptcy law so that could be uniformly applied. She was also concerned, as well as Damon Silvers, they're both concerned about the inability of people with underwater mortgages to benefit from the programs offered by Obama so far through these programs at the Treasury. And although commending him on what they've done so far in terms of creating a floor for mortgage modifications. And his response was, we're doing our best. There's a number of different programs that are out there as well, and he didn't take any kind of strong position on bankruptcy. But regarding consumer protection, he did say that there's in the next couple of weeks, the Treasury will be issuing a report on consumer protections. And the Treasury has gotten into this role of putting out reports on financial regulation, which is kind of interesting because technically that's up to the Fed right now to do that. But they will be putting that, as well as their clarification on executive compensation, presumably on their website in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.